Okay. Hello, we're going to have the question and answer and discussion periods with being led by Jane Chin Davidson.
Great. Thank you, Mary. And thank you so much, Reiko and Tim. What a fantastic talk. I mean, really, I thought, oh, well, we're going to just look at all the works that we were reading about in this fabulous new WEAD number 13 issue. And here we have this whole new, amazing body of work. So I'm just super thrilled. And so we want to open up the floor to questions. And already we have a few in our chat. The first question was from Emma. And it really was my question too. So I'm so glad, Emma, that you asked it, because she asked, "What can you speak more of the metaphors you use for climate change, like the one you saw in Scotland with the Kelpie?" Hopefully you can expand on that, Reiko and Tim. This notion that this is this act, this performance between the horse and the farmer could really illustrate something or metaphorize. What were you thinking in those terms?
Do you want me to start?
Yes, big question.
But it's not a hard question, because Reiko did her PhD on empathic interrelationships with more than human things, and she decided to develop Plein Air, which is an interface that lets us hear, which lets us record live stream data from photosynthesis and transpiration and turn it into sound. So it's a really difficult project that took 10 years to get right. There's a new version of it being developed, which will be handheld and back and fits in a backpack, where the old one, fitted into a painting easel. But basically that was, that was an idea that followed an interest in climate change, an interest in long-term ecological restoration, various tours we were doing around the country. And then we fell in with these guys at Duke University that were pumping 500 parts per million carbon into a loblolly pine forest and recording its response in terms of carbon dioxide, photosynthesis and transpiration, carbon sequestration, yada, 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 yada. And, so we went, we spent 3 days bothering them, and they kept saying, "This is an art. Why do you want to look at this?" And so they offered to take us to the forest, but we had to be there at like 6 in the morning. We climbed 4 stories up, and we have this experience of the trees waking up with all the equipment hooked up to them. And we just have this, Reiko calls it an aha moment, where the tree is breathing and respiring and responding to the atmosphere quicker than we do. And all of a sudden, the great lumbering giants of seasonal change have become rapid response beings. So the whole Plein Air project is built around this idea that, we've got this intimate interrelationship with more than living things. And a lot of it came out of, Reiko's, one of the constant threads in the work is about listening to things breathe. So when we had the baby raccoons, the sick raccoons, she would get up really early in the morning and she'd listen to them all breathing, and she'd decide which ones to take care of first based on the sound of their breathing. When we're working in Pittsburgh, we began to realize that the river breathes and the land breathes, and you could actually see it on some days. So after working with scientists for 10 years, you wanted an intimate interrelationship with another living thing that was leafy. And so the trick was to use technology to reveal the breath of a tree in the hopes of helping us understand a different way of being with them. Yeah?
Mm, mm.
Did I talk too much?
No. That's your that's good. I think because we lived in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for a while, so I learned a lot from the history there, and what just the Keirin graph in Hawaii, goes up, right? But when it started going up, that area is, right after, 100 years, there's a little kind of incubation time. But, John Watt invented the steam engines, and then the industry, it becomes, bigger, much bigger, and then faster to do things. Of course, people are talking about now exploitation of the places, but I really think about this industrial revolution that was the beginning, and it's still going on, and it's just taken rather than given back.
Yeah.
So that the metaphor of Kelpie, the farmer used the horse, but he doesn't keep the horse, right? The horse release the horse, water horse, and then they come back. The water horse spirit comes back. That kind of relationship. The sheep eat the birch trees, but they don't kill the forest. They can come back. Leave that kind of contingency. Why can't we learn that wisdom to live in everyday life? It's not just one or two things. I think everything we can just we use the metaphor. So that's I was thinking about.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful. That is just absolutely beautiful. Emma, did you have any follow-up to that? I mean, what you just last said was so, I mean, because we think we need to have stuff. We need to own things, and then we need to buy things, and we don't see our relationships to what we need and want and do in this life. But just having a horse that does the job for you and then goes home. I mean, that's just outside of our thinking. Emma, did you have any more you wanted to follow up with that question you had?
I definitely do want to say thank you, Reiko, for that. It was so beautiful. And to follow up, just like I totally agree that reciprocity between like a spirit or anything more than human and humanity can be so powerful and healing, like, and the way that you've like distilled that in like a real moment is truly beautiful. So yeah, thank you for speaking on it.
Yes.
Thanks for the question. Great question, Emma.
Great. And then following up on that, Beth Carruthers asked, how did darkness respond to the Kelpie bridal?
He didn't mind at all. Some stuff he doesn't like it, but he accepted. I didn't have a really, I didn't ride with the bridle, so that's, maybe I should do it again, But the mock-up is, I have, it's a bit less bridle, and then I still use to ride him in the farm. We keep the horse.
To give you a sense of the darkness, he's a friend of ours said he's the closest thing anybody's ever seen to a hoofed Labrador retriever. He's very he's got a great relationship with Reiko. He follows her around like a little dog, and at the same time he's incredibly willful. So there's certain places he wants to go, there's certain things he wants to eat, and he's very good at communicating his wishes. And sometimes, because he's such a big fella, there's a little bit of a wrestling match that has to go on, huh? But
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
he was okay with the bridle.
Yeah, that essay that part in your essay about darkness really gave the reader a sense that darkness is an independent soul, and that really is an autonomous being who's very powerful. And yet you had this sort of equal relationship with darkness that wasn't anything we could compare it to in terms of our domestic relationships, with dogs or animals that we know of. So that was part of, in your writing about darkness, that was truly stunning. It was just like chilling, to hear how you went out in the dark with darkness. And I mean, talk about a metaphor, darkness out in the dark with darkness. I mean, it was just like super, I don't know, it's like an experience that you wrote about that really was unique.
It's darkness is just a very plain horse. It's not, particularly,
Yeah, he's an Irish traveler.
Yeah,
horse,
it's just very, just the horse. But we have a good relationship, and then, but I'm sure cats, dogs, birds, you have a pet, in your place, they are same, they're always talking to you and they're always supporting you, that's the kind of fundamental relationship. So what can we build from that?
Yeah.
That's the maybe question, and then probably everybody has, wonderful moments to share. Yeah.
Right. Oh, I saw someone's hand up. Was it Leslie? Did you have your hand up? I'm sorry, I missed you the first time. Did you want to bring your question back up, Leslie?
Yes, hang on, getting there. So I put it in the chat. And I really agree with the whole concept of, not othering. And but rats are my issue. And I think you mentioned it at the beginning. And they're very smart. They're very caring. They give me gifts. They'll drop a flower, they trimmed and put it on the front porch or something. But I need to communicate with them more so we can come to some kind of resolution about boundaries. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about that. I did talk to vector control in Alameda County, and we're on a give them X amount of food per day to hopefully not grow the colony. However, that's asking a lot. So I don't know if you had any insights in, I haven't got around to getting to the researchers at Berkeley that are working on rats, but I just wondered if you had any insights of how that, better communicate. They're smart. There's no question they're brilliant and they want to communicate. I firmly believe they want to establish a relationship. But how do I communicate the boundaries of, okay, this is good, don't do that?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, no, I know. I just want your insights. I don't know. I know I'm hitting you, but I thought you
when we
might
lived
have.
at the farm, we had a huge problem with rats. And, sometimes we trap them, sometimes we chase them, sometimes, we do all bad things to them, or we have in the past. But at the farm, Reiko decided that she was going to talk to them every night. And you were putting food out in the garden for them, right? So she told them that, she basically had a conversation, and I don't know if that worked or something else worked, but, she told them that there's food in the garden. This is our space. That's your space.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I'll keep putting food in the garden, but stay the hell out of our our rafters. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Very, very funky old building, under the freeway, at the bottom of Pachuro Hill. But yeah, it's a trick. They're cunning creatures. Yeah.
Oh, smart. It's very smart, but also very caring. I did use a wildlife camera, and they love each other, and they're not mean, and but so okay. Thank you. Thanks.
No worries.
Yeah.
So, and more questions here from Ann Rosenthal. How have your visitors to your projects responded? Have you found that their empathy to non-human others have increased? That's a great question. It's a really great
What's the question? Sorry.
People that come to the exhibitions, does their relationship to non-human others, does their empathic relationships increase? So you could talk about the Mia Kusma Festival, yeah?
Can you start?
So the bottom line is we were at the Mia Kusma Festival in Eupen, Belgium in September for 2 weeks. And, this is a proper music festival with, a whole range of things. And we're up in the tower of an old industrial building with windows on all 4 sides. We've got the coolest place on the festival grounds, and we've got Plein Air set up. And, it's a cross section of humanity. There's kids that haven't slept for 3 days that have done every drug you can imagine, and they're coming back day after day. So this is the ideal for us. So one of the interesting things about presenting work within a music context rather than an art context is artists come through in 3 to 5 minutes and decide whether it's worth sitting longer, and they usually don't. But music folks come in and spend anywhere from a half an hour to 2 hours. And at the Mia Kusma Festival, like, they would come back day in and day out, and they'd come back at sunset. How's it going to change? Are you going to put a different tree in? So they started to get the fact that the tree was reacting to changing amounts of sunlight. They were understanding that when there was 20 people in the room, there was more CO2. CO2 is like chocolate to a tree. It starts to photosynthesize really quickly, develop depending on available sunlight. So in that instance, the response was really good, and we kept hearing from people. So we actually had an initial invitation to go to COP27 from some German folks who decided this would be a perfect talking point for the restoration of the Congo rainforest. But it all fell through because they were struggling with trying to do everything at the last minute. But yeah, so things like that, I think the music venues work better for that particular piece of work. Yeah, Reiko.
Yes. Okay, yes. Mia Kusma, I'm just going back a little bit. The Plein Air, when we show in a large audience, I explained a little bit how the system works. And then lots of audience, they're happy just understanding how the system works. Yeah. And then that's almost enough, and then they understand how the tree is responding to the environment, and now we are part of the environment. That's fine. But once in a while, we see the folks without Plein Air. They have been talking to trees for whole their lives, and then those people are. It just the conversation is just amazing. They don't talk much, but just feel it. It just that's very empathic. They have been talking to trees so deeply, and then they have some sense how to understand the trees, and then it's just wonderful to meet with those people.
We also presented it at the Botanics here.
Yeah, so that's the thing.
And again, we were getting people that were cycling through constantly because they walk through the Botanics every day. So they'd come in every few days and they'd sit for an hour. And one of the funny stories is, Wallace, right? Wallace Heim. So Wallace is a performance theorist and a philosopher. And so she came in and, we'd asked her to write something about it. So she came in and, she spent all morning and, she said, do you mind if I sing with it? We said, you do whatever you want. Yeah. So she's kind of hanging out and trying to sing with it. And, after a couple hours, she disappears and, I've got to get coffee, and she's a little frustrated. Yeah. So she comes back in the afternoon and she goes, I'm going to try it again. She says, but I never thought it'd be so hard to sing with a tree. They don't pay attention to any of the normal musical methodologies that I understand. Yeah. So in her article, it's, it's hilarious. She's basically said, she spent the whole day trying to sing with this tree, but how arrogant could she be to think she could sing tree? Yeah. Of course, only Wallace could pull that off with any authenticity. But yeah, there's things like that, and there's other works that we've done that, raise questions about how we perceive and have a relationship with living things. Reiko's got a whole body of work that's been produced with darkness, where she's trying to understand the landscape through his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, his memory of what tastes good and why it tastes good, and why it tastes better for 2 weeks in July, but it's not to be eaten in August. We don't quite understand some of it yet, but he's very demonstrative, and all of that's been recorded, but we keep chasing a curator. So we have a curator on the hook at the moment, but she's, she comes in and comes out, she gets all excited, then she goes away, and like Wallace is like, the hell are they doing? I have no idea how to go at this. So we'll see what happens with that. But the work with darkness, when people get to spend time with him, and some of the elements that we've recorded, people have a very strong reaction to. There's one very simple video where Reiko's standing on the top of the hill and she goes, "Darkness," and all of a sudden you hear, "Woo!" And all of a sudden he's galloping across the field, and it's just a very simple, maybe 60-second tape, but the reaction to that, people are just quite taken with it. Yeah. We played it the last time we saw Newton Harrison for a conference that he organized, and the room broke out into laughter. Yeah. And, Newton came up afterwards. He goes, "I do like that big fella." So yeah, so it comes through, but it's like anything else we do. People ask us why we do what we do, and I keep arguing that it's because we're in constant pursuit of a new subjective understanding of the world. And sometimes that shift in subjectivity gets embedded in the work, and sometimes people get that shift as well by seeing the work. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have no idea what we're up to. But that's just been the way it's been for over 30 years. Yeah. Yeah.
That is so wonderful. This notion of subjectivity across human and non-human life. I mean, that's such a beautiful way to put it. Amanda Bailey has a follow-up question from Anne Rosenthal's. How have you approached new audiences for your work, and such as people who may not already have been attracted to your work through empathy with non-human others?
So first, we want to thank you for paying all our friends to come tonight. This is very nice. How are you going to answer Amanda, Reiko?
Well, yeah, it happens. The article, we were working for over a year. They have editing process, and then editor didn't believe animals have, sense of
sentience.
They are sentient. They don't. The editor believes they are not sentient. So it's 180 opposite from Jane. After I got that kind of comment, just freezes, and then I don't know if you believe that way. I cannot change you.
Yeah, so this was for an article that tracked all the philosophical ideas behind the work, and how it informed methodology. But it was the sentience question that the lead editor was seriously upset about. So we had to call our friend Francois Wiedersmulder, who's an animal behavior scientist at the Rural College in Edinburgh, and is renowned for her work on sentient otherness. And so she gave us a whole set of references to go back and to put into the article. But it was interesting. It was interesting that they were so adamant that this couldn't be so, and that the work that we were doing, so she was trying to hold the work to an objective standard, typical of scientific research, maybe. And, you know, we can argue our way around that and through that and over that if we need to, and we were doing that. But first we had to put in place this idea that, you know, there's an international panel of scientists who in 2012 declared sentience as a more than human thing, and it's not in question anymore. Right. But it was interesting, huh? So that was one struggle, and then other, you know, to get other people to pay attention. You know, Amanda, you know how hard it is for people to get what we're doing, and to get them to spend time listening and thinking about it is a bit of a trick. But other people fall into it right away. Other people fall into it head over heels in unexpected ways. Yeah, like the German guys that called us about COP27. That was not expected in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. And he told us in great detail why it was essential to what he was doing in the Congo rainforest, which, you know, I wish I had recorded that, because that's probably the best testimonial we've ever had. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's really, you know, that's, I think everybody, you know, the audience tonight, you guys are experiencing that too, you know. We just have to keep doing it. You know, that's the only way. If, you know, 99% is say no, you still have to keep walking, you know. Yeah. That's all we can do.
We should say Amanda's been very helpful to us, as she's brought us into a network of musicians, sound artists, and people engaged in the sonic conditions of our everyday world, and we much appreciate that. It's been a brilliant conversation over the last 3 months.
Great, that's great. Well, and Beth also has a question about, you know, how do you elicit that feedback? Is there a mechanism for getting, you know, responses from people? I mean, is that built into your methodology at all?
We talk to people.
I know, right? We're not scientists. I mean, scientists always want those accessible, quantifiable, qualifiable evidences, and being subjective is a whole different field of analysis. So I wonder about that. And Beth, maybe you want to add to that, this question here. Is there a mechanism for feedback?
Can I just talk instead of typing? It's easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, so I wasn't really thinking so much about quantifiable outcomes. I was more thinking about ways of finding out how the work lives in the world and for other people. You know, what that it's like sending your kid out into the world, you know, in a way. For me, it is anyway. So I'm always interested in, so what is that relationship, and how might there be a way of finding out about it, especially if the work goes anywhere without you and you can't just have those conversations really easily. I would say that's, well, I have a particular thing, which is I'm always interested in the nature of the embodied aesthetic engagement of things. And you know, I grew up with a mother who talked to trees, so there you go. So I have many interests in this. So yeah.
So,
I'm
so
interested
Beth,
in knowing
so
if there's
Beth,
any-
are you thinking about eliciting a certain response then? And is your question related to how that response gets transmitted or?
Yeah, it is, because I worked with songbirds over a period of about 5 or 6 years, and my interest was in, well, there was a lot of trying to explain to other people about how you collaborate with a bird really without just taking away their songs and doing what you want with them. And so, but then there was, how do people respond to not well, we know about people responding to birdsong, but how do we know about how people respond to the work, right? What is that conversational space that might open, and might that have some kind of change, like seed some kind of transformation or an aha moment or something in people who experience the work? And is there a way? I'm always interested, is there a way to know about that, like what that is? And so I thought I'd ask you guys.
Yeah. So Beth, you know us pretty well, yeah. And like we showed the work we showed Plein Air in North Carolina, and of course it was up for 2 months at a university gallery, and we couldn't be there all the time. But everybody we installed with, the curator and all the preparators and all the people at the front desk, got to know us after a while, and they were all engaging us about what the hell we were doing in that room, yeah. We're always very open that if people want to talk, we're happy to do so. And we gave them all our cards and told them if people coming through the exhibition have questions, just give them our card, and we're happy to answer questions on email and engage in a dialogue about what we think is going on. And the thing that I'm really clear about is that in that subjective shift, from where your ideas are being challenged, your experience is being challenged, and at that moment where there's a subjective shift, and all of a sudden you realize that meaning is not what it was, is arrived at differently by different people. Yeah. So, Wallace had to sing with Plein Air, to get where we get just listening to Plein Air. But, that was an embodied engagement that was, for me, really significant. We've got another friend that spent time with it, and her partner had a huge reaction against it. He didn't like it. He thought we were instrumentalizing the breath of the tree. And his initial reactions were very negative. But what a great conversation we had with him. He's an old friend. Yeah.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all of that is most welcome. As long as it's done in a spirit of, conversational exchange, and, and it's not abusive. So we get people that just think what we're doing is nuts, and, just process it.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, I guess I'm just, sorry, I need to shut up, and we can have this conversation another time, actually, maybe to give other people space. Thanks.
Well,
It's
Joe
always a
McDonald.
pleasure, Beth.
Joe McDonald also has a question directly for Reiko. Reiko, you talk about the concept of reciprocity in relation to darkness. Can you say what you think darkness is seeking, and what darkness gains from the interrelationship that you are exploring and pursuing? I'm also interested in the role of ethics in empathy. How do you evaluate the impact of your engagement with and upon life forms as elements within your art? Many thanks.
Nice question.
Well, another big question. Oh gosh. Well, I think darkness and I are looking for contentness in our everyday life. So Tim, help me. What should I say?
The running. So
he has to eat, and then he has to be with other horses, and then grass is very important, and then
but in terms of,
play is also very important.
yeah, see, on a certain level, so Reiko took up running so that she could engage with darkness on his own terms, yeah?
And then, yeah, the question is, I need to get out from your format of the questions, because I saw like I go hiking with him, and he's always looking for green spaces, how the plants are growing. And then because I am interested in plants too, so we share the interest, what kind of plants are there, and then what he likes. And then, but he's constantly checking, some areas in park or roadside, what's growing, and then what's edible, what's not. I mean, and then sometimes he gets confused, like raspberry and then nettles are very similar, and then they grow together. So I say, no, don't eat nettle, don't eat nettle. So something like that. And then exercise, we pray, and then this pray is it's just always amazing, because he keeps changing the rules. And then, so the play is, that's, you need to find how to change the rules, and then how you flow with that. And then by doing it, I learned a lot, really lots of things. Very recently, Aviva introduced me to a choreographer, Joanna from New York. And then she dances with a horse, and then she visited Glasgow. She has friends in Glasgow too. And then I attended her workshop, and then basically two people get together, and then kind of response to the movement. And then she also talks a lot of horses, responses to human movement too. So people started imagining being horse or chasing the horse. And then, I really felt I am becoming, I never, I intended to be a horse, but that moment being two people together, body language, I felt horse doesn't do it, horse would do this. So horseness is growing inside of me as a body.
So talk about ethics, and also there's Jonathan Swift's narrative of the women, yeah, the women, yeah.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, women.
So say it.
So that Jonathan Swift article, where the horses are more intelligent than the humans, is very much part of how Reiko thinks about these things. She's Japanese. She never sat on a horse till she was in her 50s. The only thing I know about horses, was gathered from a Narragansett Indian stable in Rhode Island as a kid. Neither one of us know anything about horses. So Reiko went into this with this idea that she didn't even want to ride them. She just wanted to walk with them. And then little by little, she's learned to ride, and she rides very well, but she also decided that she wants to run with him. Now, the other thing is, he'll go out for hours. He's very comfortable. Most horses need to go out with other horses. He's happy just the two of us or the three of us going out. But if he gets tired of having us on our back, he just turns around and gives you a dirty look, and we'll stop and more or less let you know that it's time for some walking alongside the horse time. So Reiko's got a very special ethical relationship with him, and most of the people at the stables don't quite understand. One stopped in the middle of the road the other day because she was walking with him on the way back from the park, and she thought there was something wrong, that Reiko had gotten off the horse, and Reiko just said he was tired, and and they wanted to walk along and check out some of the plants on the way home, and she just shook her head and got back in the car. So Yeah, it's a process, but that Jonathan Swift article is kind of underpins your whole relation with him in some ways.
Yes,
And he was bought the week after the independence movement failed. Reiko came home and said, somebody's got to be free in this country. I've just released him from the riding school. And I said, Reiko, we agreed we couldn't couldn't afford a horse. And she goes, oh, Tim, you're so smart. You'll figure out how to pay for him. I bought him, you'll pay for him.
No, it's still, it's not working that way.
But
But
you've ethically compromised, just so you know.
but what you can do with the horse, instead of just going around and round like merry-go-round, because such a intelligent animal and also so large, and then that's how do you use creativity, how to break the rules, and then going somewhere totally different things you have never done before with animal, those are, it's a kind of everyday my assignment, and then it's really, you're not alone, that's another wonderful thing. It's I mean, really bad weather, I'm out and then I can't believe, like soaking wet, lots of wind, and why I am outside.
Joe, did we even start to answer your question?
Well, my daughter.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, no, you did start to answer it. I thought it was really interesting, and I had a sense from you, Reiko, that you were seeing the world with darkness or with the horse from their perspective, from being with them. So that came across to me. I suppose my question also came through how your work has changed over time, potentially. And I was thinking about your use of crickets in the meditation piece with the raised floor, and whether different life forms over time have perhaps been treated differently by you with your artworks, and whether your practice has developed over time and your connection with other life forms has sort of enriched over time through your work.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's a great. Thank you.
So Ruth's got a great question there, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. And I felt sort of like Reiko, you guys answered with your last discussion, but Anne asked about how you have touched others, says Ruth, through your work. Joe asked about how darkness has been touched. May I turn that around? Do you have more to say about how your sense of sentience and relationship to the more than human world has shifted?
Yeah, I guess that darkness case is because he's so large, and then not just darkness, horses, they say no to human beings. That no, physical no is, cats and dogs, we still kind of, we can stop them, but the horses cases, but it's kind of important, that animals say no to us, and then so the negotiation begins with this no. Yeah, I think Leslie was talking about rats, boundaries, that I think animal has their boundaries to human beings not to come into their space, and then that we probably should respect.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's both sides. We can say no. No.
But you go through the world telling me that things are talking to you, yeah?
No, always.
But
I'm
often,
trying.
yeah.
I'm just trying if I can. I'm not always there 100%.
So it's interesting. I think I know Reiko's perception is changed, because she sees things sometimes that I don't see. But even, she's the best artist in the family. I'm not as smart as she is. But I've started to pick up things. We walk through the stable and there's different people in there that tell us different stories. And, you know, some of them have had hard lives. Some of them have had, you know, very pleasant lives. Some of them, you know, aren't. You know, it was interesting, you know, we talk about metaphors. Somebody said that horses can be like balloons. They're like helium balloons. And when they're with you, they're with you. But if you lose your grip on the string, their attention kind of goes off. So there's a Highland pony that's friends with darkness that we end up taking care of sometimes. And he's really funny because, you know, last week we would whistle and he'd come running to the gate. The other day we whistled and he stood in the middle of the field like darkness going, "Roar!" And we're like, oh, so he's picked up another behavior. And then we went and stood in the gate and he completely ignored us. Yeah. You know, it's like the balloon flew away. You know, and then there's a new horse that's come in that has the biggest ears. Like I think of them as rabbits. So this is the Ruth. I think if there's a thing that's important, it's the fact that they're herbivores. Yeah, so they're creatures of prey. They're completely different. You know, the closest experience we have is Hazel Rabbit, who lived with us for 10 years. But you know, these are big rabbits, and they talk with their ears. So there's this one horse that's only 4 years old, and her air talking is exemplary. And you know, I've been trying to make a video of it because she's got a lot to say and I can't quite follow her syntax, but she's definitely got our attention. Yeah. So yeah, everything's changed, and it continues to change, and that's why we're artists, is because as you know, probably more than any of our colleagues, this is all about a pursuit of our own subjectivity and the relationships we can have that'll knock us off balance. And we spent some time with Ruth in San Diego in March, and it was probably the best conversation we've had this year.
Awesome.
No question.
Awesome. Ruth, do you have anything to follow up on your question there? That's wonderful.
I don't think so for right now, except I guess I was partly also asking because of the arrogance of the reviewers in your article that weren't thinking that animals were sentient, and that everybody's sentience changes through this work. So I appreciate the additional stories. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ruth. It's really sometimes academic paper is it's just you need to prove something by what other people said, and somebody said that therefore it's Why can't we just talk normal voice, normal stories?
But that's not the way we communicate. With your work is about a different kind of communication, so it's
yeah, nothing's easy.
Yes, sorry, I'm sorry.
Well, it's been such a wonderful hour with you, and we just so appreciate your spending Sunday afternoon with us, and full of thanks for this Thanksgiving week that you've taken this time and shared your gifts with all of us. And unless anyone else has a final question, Susan, yes, I'll give the floor to Susan now.
Okay, I'll just do a sign off, but I want you to know, Reiko and Tim, things have really changed since 1990. And more people are listening, to what you say and what you write. And more people are, walking through the woods and looking at trees differently because of the way Ruth sees the trees too. It's like, it's important that you bring this to people's attention. And of course, we have skeptics galore in every walk of life. But if we could get more people to just pay attention to one other non-human being and build a relationship on that, even if it's their pet dog, I think it translates well, you know, and especially if you talk to younger generations, that's my whole hope for the world. You know, when I talk to people who are younger, and they're like, you know, light years ahead of from where we started out, I think. And they take all of this really to heart, and it means a lot to them. And I really appreciate both of you and your work, and your coming to speak to us, and for your article in the magazine, Reiko. Thank you from the depth of my heart to you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
I'll give a little wave of appreciation.
I know, thank you. Right, yes. If you have a chance, please come to Scotland to see darkness.
I am on my way, almost.
Yes.
Maybe the other house will be talking by then.
Okay, so I will stop the recording here.
Okay.
Thank you.